Back here on SportsLine, just heard from former Tennessee Governor Bill Haslam. He is purchasing shares to become the majority owner of the Nashville Predators over the next 3 years. And you got the feeling he understands. His brother, owner of the Browns, he understands sports from that perspective. He understands where this team has come from as well. And certainly a guy who understands the situation of the current team and what this means is Herb Fritch. And we got a chance to check out the chairman of the Predators and the current ownership group and his idea behind bringing Bill Haslam in, what he thinks that does for the stabilization of this group and what it might mean for the future as well.
No, it kind of becomes an estate planning process. I'll contrast that. I was at the Board of Governors meeting last Thursday, sitting in the Ottawa seat. Eugene Melnick passed away. Sitting in the Ottawa seat at the Board of Governors meeting is an attorney that's managing his estate. I thought it was important enough to get the right person to succeed me for the stability of the franchise, the credibility of it, that it could take 2-3 years to find the right person. So I started 6 months ago. I told people making a short list, 3 people I called. Bill was on the list and expressed some interest. So I thought this is kind of a unique opportunity. We ought to pursue it. And I've become more and more convinced over the 6 months we've worked on this that Bill's the right guy. And I feel very good about the transition and the decision. It's
well documented how much of a fan you are. So as a fan, for the fans, what was it about him that makes you feel safe about this organization in the future?
You wanted to find somebody locally that is a Tennessee and Nashville person. And this is a tremendous community asset, the franchise. And I wanted to find somebody that people knew in Tennessee, was interested in Tennessee, was interested in Nashville. And I'm going to retain a small ownership position. And like you say, I view it from a fan perspective. And I just think it was the right thing to do for the franchise. And we got the right guy in to trust as the steward of the franchise.
Why a couple-year process? Why not just sell the majority stake now?
Well, there was no urgency. I'm happy doing what I'm doing. I'm happy to be an owner of the Predators. I thought it would be nice to have a pretty smooth transition where I'm looking forward over the next 3 years to working with Bill and having him jointly make a lot of the decisions. So I didn't have any urgency. I actually, in my mind, my goal was to say over 4 or 5 years to do a phase transition. Part of the negotiations, Bill wanted to do it sooner than later, so I moved my time frame up and we compromised and said let's do it over 3 years, so which is fine.
From the hockey standpoint, you let Sean run the business side, you let David run the hockey side. David said at his end-of-the-year press conference that he's got the full support of ownership. Fans obviously want to see success. What is it about David that you believe in to keep him in that position?
Well, he's certainly got the track record. He's a known quantity. He's been doing this. He's won more games than any other GM in history. We're executives. I've got a lot of expertise in healthcare. If you ask me a healthcare question, I'll tell you what to do, but I understand what I don't know about hockey and the ins and outs and long-term contracts and player assessments. And yeah, you have opinions as fans, but it's become particularly important in this situation where we've got 10 families with an ownership stake and 17 individuals that attend our ownership meetings. Everyone has opinions. And at the end of the day, I wouldn't hire any of them with all due respect, to be my general manager. I mean, we've come to appreciate that while we all have opinions, David's the hockey expert in the room. And I want him to hear our opinions. But at the end of the day, he's got to make those calls and he's got to make those decisions. And it's not something that we should be doing, or even if we could.
Do you think, I know that...
I mean, we talked to David, and you can assume that he does have the support of the direction. So it's not like we don't talk to him about what he's planning to do and stuff, but I think it'd be inappropriate for us to be out there being the face of what's the hockey decisions, which guys should we sign and stuff. I mean, that's really David's arena, and I'm happy to have him be the spokesperson for the team in that regard.
Is some of that, too, the fact that there is such a large ownership group, and you feel as though if you're coming out and speaking, you're speaking for more than just yourself, I guess you would say?
Yeah, I don't know, and it's just a personal opinion. I guess the guy, just to pick one, if it's a Jerry Jones type situation, you know, I mean, from my view as a fan, it looks like he's making all the decisions.
Right.
And maybe he's more qualified than we are, but I don't think that should be our role.
So you've hinted at this quite a bit about how successful the Predators have been. Can you give us any idea of, since when you bought your majority stake till now, how much percentage of growth that stake has grown in percent value?
Oh, geez, I don't know. I'm sure we're 4 or 5 times. I mean, the league has, you know, a lot of this. If you attend the NHL meetings and you get some of the history, Bettman kind of does a state of the league and the state of hockey. And I think just hockey is growing. And it's certainly growing here in Nashville, but I think the league is growing probably by that much. If you just look at overall league revenues, which kind of translates with franchise values, but over 15 years, that's a long time. So having revenues and franchise values grow by factor 4, 5, 6 times, that's true of a lot of sports, certainly true of hockey.
You've been with the team for over a decade. What went into the decision to sell your majority stake to former governor?
I just looked longer term. I didn't think, I'm getting older. How did you want the ownership to look, and what would be the best thing for the franchise in the long run? And I think it was important to find the right local guy. I only had a short list of 3 or 4 people that I could think of that had the wherewithal to do it, maybe had the interest, and that's really the bottom line. I thought it was the right longer term decision for the franchise, and Bill will be a good steward for what is I view as a really valuable community asset.
You mentioned local. How much did stability and keeping that team here in Nashville, Predators in Nashville, play into that decision?
Well, I don't think we were in any danger of losing the franchise the way we were when we bought in. That was the major thing, but I thought it was still important to get the right guy as the majority owner, and I think the more I work with Bill, I'm really happy with that decision.
Do you envision all the owners staying on board as this process continues? Some of the owners stay on board, or is there a blueprint to this?
You know, it's an individual owner decision. I mean, I'm right now, I'm planning to stick around as an owner, as just much smaller. And if history's any guide, we've had a number of the owners sell units here and there, but none of them have sold out completely. They've all hung on as at least some stake. That might change, but I mean, we're getting a lot of owners, so I mean, but right now, I mean, we can't force anyone to sell out completely. Just not our role, and historically, no one has.
It felt at the end of the season, a lot of fans were clamoring to hear from ownership, which has not been something you guys have tried to do a whole lot of. Should have stayed back. But did that weigh into this at all to get somebody who maybe is more comfortable in a front-facing position?
No, I don't know that Bill will be more front-facing. I mean, he certainly has the history as governor of doing that, but I've just always felt that David ought to be the spokesperson on hockey issues. Sean is doing a phenomenal job on the business side, and it's more appropriate that they're the experts. They're the guys that do this. Certainly, we talk to them. We're involved with them. We weigh in and agree with their direction and decisions. But I don't feel a need to be out in front being the sponsor for the team. They're the experts, and let them deal with you guys.
So for those fans, I certainly understand that, but for those fans who kind of wonder after, they look at it and say last 4 years has seemed to go in the wrong direction in some perspective, and they want to know what the ownership feels. What's your message to them about where you think the direction is, and how does this sale change it, if it does at all?
I don't think it really changes it. I think Bill's pretty comfortable with how the team's been run, what we've accomplished over the years. I mean, every team cycles up and down in terms of their competitiveness and stuff. We haven't taken the real deep dips that some teams have, and that's a scary thing to me. I mean, to be out there and not make the playoffs for a number of years in a row in order to get top draft picks, and that's a risky road. And I think David navigated it pretty well to keep us pretty competitive. We're not satisfied with where it's at. We won't be until we're in the finals again and hopefully winning the cup. But there's 32 teams after that goal, so most of them aren't going to get there. And but I'm comfortable. He's been doing this a long time. He's won more games than any other GM in the history of the league. So I just feel like he's a great asset to the team and the community. And I'm getting older, so is he. We're going to have to change that at some point. And frankly, it's one of the things I was thinking about is I really want Bill to be involved in those kinds of critical decisions.
I know this will be a years-long process, but do you guys take some pride already in kind of what you have done before the takeover becomes complete, just what you've done over the past decade or more than a decade?
Well, certainly, to me, I've said this earlier today. I mean, the most gratifying thing has been to think about where we were in 2007, and the franchise was shaky. Financially, we were shaky. We were having capital calls. There was a move to move the franchise with an owner that wasn't local. And to see the way the city has gotten behind it and the fans have gotten behind the franchise, that's the most gratifying thing to me. I couldn't have envisioned that when we took over. And I feel like the franchise is in pretty good shape. We're stable financially. We're stable here. We've got a long-term lease. And now it's just finding a majority owner that'll, keep going longer than I would have and just be a good steward to that asset. And I think we've done that in Bill, and I'm really excited as a fan to see this transition. I think it's a great thing for the city and the franchise.
So this started with you thinking of him and calling him and initiating this?
I had three people that I called that I thought would, if I were hand-picking someone now, not to know if they had any interest in owning a hockey team, but would be great stewards for the franchise and have the financial wherewithal to do something like this.
So, in terms of decision making, the way you guys do it as an ownership group, is it still would it be still be like you have final say? Is that how it has been?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so it's like everybody talks about it, you have final say, and that's probably what will continue then.
That's what I'd expect.
Okay.
That's what I'd expect.
How collectively are those discussions whenever there's a big decision?
Oh, logistically, it's a challenge with 17 people and 10 families and that stuff. So you just stay. We have calls about once a quarter, and if there are any significant issues, talk about them. And I feel like I want everyone's input and opinions, but at the end of the day, with this many people, you're not going to necessarily satisfy everybody. And you just got to realize that's the case, and somebody's got to make a final decision as the majority owner that usually falls to me, and we move on. But there haven't been that many really controversial things. As long as things are going along pretty smoothly from a financial and a competitive